Today's discussion will be on the class struggle between the poor and the rich. And the term class struggle refers to the conflicts that exist between the upper and lower classes in society. The struggle primarily involves the competing interests of rich business owners and low-income workers. The concept of class struggle is associated with a sociological theory developed by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels in the 19th century. Marx and Engels. Marx and Friedrich Engels were social philosophers who collaborated in writing the Communist Manifesto in 1848. According to Marx and Engels, conflicts between the upper and lower classes have occurred throughout history. The idea is captured in a famous quote from the Communist Manifesto. The history of all hitherto existing societies is a history of class struggles. As noted by the authors, examples of class conflict can be found in ancient Rome, the Middle Ages, and modern times. In modern society, the struggle involves two major classes known as the bourgeoisie and proletariat. Bourgeoisie versus proletariat. As defined by Marx and Engels, the bourgeoisie is the class that owns the means of production. In other words, they own businesses that produce goods for consumption by the members of society. The bourgeoisie is also known as the capitalist class because of the emphasis on accumulating capital or money. The proletariat consists of the laborers who work in the businesses owned by the bourgeoisie. The proletariat class is also referred to as a working class. In the theory of Marx and Engels, workers must sell their labor in order to survive. The members of the bourgeoisie class get rich by exploiting and oppressing workers. Employees are exploited by receiving low wages and being subjected to long hours in difficult working conditions. As Marx and Engels claim, workers are oppressed not only by the demands of employers, but also by the high rents imposed by landlords and high prices charged by shopkeepers. Conflict and revolution. According to the argument of Marx and Engels, tension between the classes eventually leads to open conflicts. The conflicts might involve such activities as protest or workers going on strike. They could also lead to revolutions in which the lower classes rise up against the upper class. Marx and Engels urge their readers to adopt communism, a system in which profits are shared equally by all members of a society. Communist revolutions have taken place in some countries, with notable examples being found in Russia and China. As noted in a Time magazine article by Michael Schulman, communism has declined as a global force in recent times. Despite this, conflicts between rich and poor continue to exist in nations throughout the world. Such conflicts occur, for example, in the United States. Class struggles in U.S. history. America's history has been characterized by a struggle between the wealthy and the poor. In a short history of the United States, Robert V. Rimini describes the exploitation of workers in a country's industries. In the words of Rimini, the United States becomes a nation divided by class on the basis of wealth. By the late 19th century, members of the working class were demanding better wages and working conditions. Employees frequently went on strike in an effort to have their demands met. In contemporary America, the income gap between rich and poor has become even more pronounced than it was in the past. Plutocracy. Some authors argue the U.S. has become a plutocracy, in which the rich thrive at the expense of the middle class and working class. This view is presented, for example, by Robert P. Formisano in his book, Plutocracy in America. The development has been supported by the actions of governmental decision-makers. As Formisano claims, policy choices over several decades laid the groundwork for a political economy, creating enormous disparities of income and wealth in the United States. From time to time, this situation has resulted in protests among members of America's lower class. The Occupy movement. A recent example of class struggle can be seen in the Occupy movement, which occurred in the United States during the years 2011 to 2012. The movement began when protesters occupied a park in New York City and demanded economic equality for people in the U.S. and the world. The protest leaders named the demonstration Occupy Wall Street. Within a matter of days, similar protests were launched in cities throughout the nation. The demonstrations often referred to themselves as the 99%. As noted in an article by Sam Pizzigotti, this drew attention to the fact that only 1% of Americans held the majority of the nation's wealth. Need for change. Income inequality is unjust because it prevents the lower classes from taking advantage of opportunities to improve their lives. As claimed by Michael Schulman, the rich are getting richer while the middle class and poor are not. In addition, as Sam Pizzigotti points out, studies have shown a link between economic inequality and health problems in society. In the U.S. and other nations of the world, there is a need for changes in policy and law to make economic conditions more equal and just. Thank you for your time and attention. For those who are interested in conducting further research on the topic of class struggle, here is a list of the sources that were used in creating this presentation.